There's always a moment in life when everything feels like it's collapsing. It happened to me in about 2012. Now, it's not because the world is against you, but because you've outgrown the version of you holding it all together. That's the mountain. So, welcome to The Mountain Is You by Brianna Wiest. This book isn't another fix yourself manual. It's actually a dismantling, breaking it down completely. It's a mental excavation, digging deep into it. The mountain she talks about isn't your job, it isn't your relationship, and it isn't your finances. It's that internal resistance between who you are and who you could be. Now, her thesis is actually quite simple. You are not sabotaging yourself, you're not holding yourself back, you're not your worst enemy because you're broken. You are sabotaging yourself because, are you ready for this? Because you are scared. Let that sink in. And then let's break it all down. So, let's talk about self-sabotage. People don't wake up. You didn't wake up one morning and decide to ruin your own potential. That would be crazy. But self-sabotage is the brain's version of don't touch the fire again. It's a defense mechanism. It shows up as procrastination, as perfectionism, which I put my hand up and I say I'm guilty of, avoidance, or chaos. And I put my hand up again for the chaos part. Now, what's really genius about Wiest and this book is how she reframes it. Instead of calling you lazy, she calls you protective. Because every time you shrink from success, your subconscious mind is whispering, look, this feels unfamiliar. We don't fully understand the success. It's dangerous. So think about this. Your body, right? Your body literally interprets happiness as a threat, especially if it's never lived there before. If all you've known is less than happiness, then this is the unknown. And you don't just fear the unknown, you fear losing control inside it. So the unknown, you're just terrified of not being in control. And that's why people sabotage love, they sabotage their health, they sabotage peace. They are just addicted to emotional patterns. You know what? Whatever worked in the past worked. It was safe. So if you were born and you grew up in a world of chaos, then guess what? Calm is unfamiliar. It's dangerous. Now, if you've understood that part, you're probably wondering, well, what is the fix? How do I fix this? Well, it's not punishing yourself. It's awareness. Awareness. And this is a big word for me because I truly believe that with awareness, you can catch the loop, you can catch the repeated behaviors in real time. So think about this, the job you delay applying for, the message you don't send, the plan you never start, the YouTube video that you never make. Those aren't failures. Those are kind of protection mechanisms. They are simply symptoms of misdirected self-protection. And on some level, it's a great thing that your mind, your body, your subconscious wants to protect you, but it's holding you back. Now let's talk about the next bit in her book, which is emotional reprogramming and building a new normal. And if I'm honest with you guys, this is the stage that I'm at. So emotional intelligence is the real muscle here. So West says we repeat emotions that we haven't fully processed. So if you grew up around anger and volatility, strange as it may sound, you will unconsciously seek it out because it's familiar. Even something that doesn't feel great, you will seek it out because it just feels familiar. Now, the goal isn't to suppress that emotion, but your job as you read through this book is to decode it. So you need to ask yourself a couple of deep questions. And honestly, this book is not for the faint-hearted. You might not be ready for the message today, but it might resonate with you in a year. Now, thinking about success. What am I actually afraid will happen if this works? What am I actually afraid will happen if this video goes viral? What am I afraid of? And what story am I still trying to make true? Think about the emotions because every emotion you ignore becomes a ghost. It's just lingering behind you and it's driving your choices. But when you feel it, when you name it, when you understand it, when you face it, when you confront it, you cut its strings. And you know, healing doesn't mean being positive. Yay. That's ridiculous. Healing means being present, being fully aware. Now, Wiest has this method of emotional programming, and it is simple. Just identify the emotion. So awareness, right? First awareness, then identify that emotion, accept it without judgment. Don't call yourself bad for having that emotion, and then replace the old behavioral response with a conscious one. So, for example, if you feel anxious right before a presentation, so maybe the old you would drink, would cancel, would go numb, but the new you says, look, this is fear trying to keep me safe. Thank you, but I've got this. Now, that's reprogramming in motion. I hear lots of people saying they want to start something, but they don't have the time, or they're not ready yet, or their English level isn't good enough to do a presentation, to do a YouTube video. No, those are defense mechanisms. They're just keeping you safe. The new you is going to write the script, it's going to record the video, and it's going to put it out there. That takes courage, but that's reprogramming. And then you repeat that behavior. The third thing that Brianna Wiest talks about in the book is the identity trap. And here, this part really resonates with me because most people don't sabotage their lives, they sabotage their identity upgrade. So they cling to their old identity like, you know, it's a life raft and they have just left the Titanic. So they hold on to those old concepts like, I'm the one who always gets hurt, or I'm the strong one, or I'm lucky, or I'm the victim, or nothing ever works out for me. Think about what story you tell yourself. Now, these stories, because they are just stories, they are your emotional armor because you feel like you're going into battle. But imagine if you never take that armor off. What does it become? It becomes a cage. It becomes a prison. Now, when you're growing, when you're changing, it feels like grief because it is. It is grief. It's the death of the old version of you, maybe a version of you that you liked on some level, but that version of you needed the armor. You don't need it anymore. That's what Wiest is saying. So letting go doesn't mean that you lose yourself. That's the fear that most people have. Well, I'm going to lose all the parts of me, the parts that I like. No, it simply means that you stop mistaking your coping mechanisms for your personality. So when you feel anxious, when you feel stressed, what do you do? What do you do? What's your coping mechanism? For me, it's shopping. And I would proudly say, oh, I'm a shopaholic, and it becomes part of my personality. But that's not what it is. That's not what it is. It's a coping mechanism. It's not my personality. Now, here's the strange part of this whole thing, the paradox in the whole thing. The self that you are terrified to let go of is the one that's holding you back. You're terrified of letting go of the old you, and the old you is actually holding you back. Okay, are you ready to talk about the fourth part in her book, where healing is integration? It's not perfection. So here's a line that's really worth tattooing on your brain. Healing isn't becoming the best version of yourself. It's not erasing everything. It's letting the worst version of yourself be loved. Allow yourself to love those dark corners of your soul. You know, perfectionism is a form of control, but integrating all the parts of yourself, that's liberation, that sets you free. So the goal, according to the book, isn't to eradicate flaws. It's to bring them into the light and say, hey, okay, you belong here too. You don't climb the mountain by disowning the darkness in you. You climb it by carrying it with you, but intentionally. You fully embrace the darkness. It's a part of who you are. Now, in this part of the book, Wace introduces the concept of self-partnership. So that means showing up for yourself the way you wanted others to, with discipline, with compassion, with love, not with indulgence, not with avoidance. Be the people that you wanted around you. Stop waiting for others to rescue you. Stop waiting for the parent that you needed. Parent yourself. Parent your inner child. Mentor yourself. And most importantly, forgive yourself, because you did the best at the time with the skills and the resources that you had. And you know, as you do this, something radical really happens. Stability, success, growth, it doesn't feel like a threat any longer. It's almost like, I'm okay just as I am, the good, the bad, the ugly. Now, it's time to talk about rebuilding. And I love this part. There are a couple great videos out there, and I'll link them in the description or in the comment section. Once you strip away your old identity, you are left standing in new territory, unfamiliar territory, right? There's peace, there's quiet, there's stability. And for many, this feels wrong, because your body craves adrenaline, drama, urgency. But mastery isn't this intensity, it's just consistency. So Waste has this suggestion. She tells you to start small, daily rituals that anchor the new self. So maybe it's waking up early for you. I'm not doing that, but I will make my matcha when I wake up. I finish what I start. Choosing silence over reaction. You don't need to bark back at every dog that barks. That's madness. And then building systems that outlast emotion. Now, this is the boring phase of transformation. I mean, going out there and splurging, it's so much more fun. But this is the stage that people skip because it doesn't look glamorous. But this is where the real power begins, where the real power grows. And another good book that might be worth reading is Atomic Habits. I think it really does relate to this part of the book. Now, remember, the mountain was never external. It was the daily micro decision between reaction and response. That's what you need to change. That's the point. And you need to trust yourself. You need to trust yourself on this journey of transformation. And once you do, you stop needing motivation. You move because you said you would. You work out because you said you would. You record that YouTube video because you said you would. And then you finally become the mountain. And this stage isn't triumph. It isn't, that rocky moment. It's transcendence. The mountain, the fears, the patterns, the doubts. And you really need to take a moment to stop and identify your fears, your patterns, your doubts. They don't disappear. No, they don't just disappear. You integrate it. You become it. The obstacles, that rock, that jagged rock you once cursed, becomes the structure that you now stand on. You don't remove all of that stuff. You embrace it. And that's why, this book doesn't end in fireworks, and it's just acceptance. Because the mountain was never blocking your path. It was your path. Every failure, every heartbreak, every collapse, it was just carving the path, the terrain of your higher self. I like West's philosophy. It's very grounded. Stop waiting for confidence. Stop waiting to be a C2 English learner before you create a podcast. No, stop waiting for all of those things. Act right now. Act with courage. And stop chasing healing, even though I am a proponent of therapy. But instead of chasing healing and becoming so attached to that healing journey, start living as someone who is already healed, as someone who just doesn't give an F about what happened to him or her. That's the past. Bury it. And this one's important. Stop fearing endings. Stop fearing endings. Every ending, for me, is a new beginning. Some people say that about death. Some people are terrified of death, right? But what if death was just the transition to another new beginning? So let's look at some of the core values in this book. Everything you avoid is where the work lives. The patterns you hate, those are invitations to growth. And emotional honesty is more important than forced positivity, because you can't heal what you won't face. So stop pretending that your life is an Instagram highlight reel. And then we talk about identity. The person you think you are was chosen by a younger version of you who was simply trying to survive. Or the person you think you are was chosen by your parents, by your family. That's not who you are. And self-mastery, it's daily. It's not dramatic. The big changes come from small decisions, repeated consistently. And, your new piece, it's going to trigger the old chaos. You might find ex-boyfriends, ex-husbands, ex-family members coming back. Now, that's not regression. It's detox. Just go through it, go through it, go through it. And this one's really interesting. People often feel like, I'm behind. I'm behind. Gosh, there are people who started YouTube channels 10, 15 years ago, people who started their careers in their 20s. I'm so behind. I'm only starting my life in my 50s. No, you're not behind. You're not behind. You are precisely where the next version of you begins. Because now you have the skills, you have the wisdom, you've gone through the university of life. You are precisely in the right place at the right time. This is where the next version of you begins. What do you think about that? Because I often have this feeling of, I'm behind, I'm behind. I need to catch up and I need to let go of that. Now, what does this book ultimately teach you? You're not here to overcome yourself. You're not here to overcome the things you don't like about yourself. No, you're here to become yourself, your true self, not the self that people told you you are. And the mountain, it's not punishment. It's not punishment. It's part of your evolution. Every time you fell, it was a lesson. It taught you to be resilient. Every time you had to make a detour, it was redirection. Every piece of resistance helped you on your ascent. And when you stop fighting the mountain, you realize that it's made of you. The mountain is you, and it's climbable. It is incredibly climbable. Is that even a word? But what I can tell you is that the view from the top is incredible. And it's not about reaching the summit, it's about the journey getting there. Enjoy the journey. Don't focus on the destination. So, one step at a time. And if you enjoy this, I do hope that you are enrolled in my book club. Thanks for joining.